Greetings and salutations, dreamers in dreamland. One more time, greetings and salutations, dreamers in dreamland. Welcome to the latest edition of Listen to Me. Listen to Me, volume 53. And let me tell you something right now, dreamers in dreamland. Today is Friday, November 19th, 2021. And Friday is fight day. And we have a tremendous fight weekend upon us. And it all begins tonight here in the United States of America. Four world championship title fights on the East Coast of the United States of America in a rather unlikely, location, Manchester, New Hampshire. That's right, Manchester, New Hampshire, the Northeast, New England, the New England region of the United States of America, New Hampshire, Manchester, New Hampshire. We've got 4 world title fights, and they'll be on the zone. And it all starts with Callie Reese and Jessica Kamara. This is a unification. WBA and IBO champion Callie Reese. She'll be challenged by Jessica Kamara, and the vacant WBO championship of the world will be on the line. The super lightweights for the females. Super lightweights. Look, my pick in that fight, Callie Reese on a points decision. It's going to be a close fight. That's going to be very close to a 50-50 fight. I think it's going to be very competitive. I think you see Callie Reese win that fight on a points decision. The next fight on that card is MJ Akhmadaliev. He is the super bantamweight unified champion of the world, the WBA IBF super bantamweight champion of the world. He'll be challenged by Jose Velasquez. That's right, Jose Velasquez will be challenging MJ Akhmadaliev in the super bantamweight division for the WBA and IBF championships of the world. I have MJ Akhmadaliev winning that by a points decision. All right, so 2 points decisions and 2 fights so far, in my opinion, on the zone card today. Next fight on that card, flyweights. One of my very favorite fighters to watch fight in the world today is Julio Cesar Martinez. The guy is a very educated pressure fighter. He's a good counterpuncher, but he does bring the pressure. He's a come-forward fighter, but he does so in an educated manner. And let me tell you something, he hits hard, and he's very durable. And I think you're going to see Julio Cesar Martinez knock out his opponent. This is a flyweight contest. His opponent is McWilliams Arroyo. I believe, in my opinion, Julio Cesar Martinez is going to knock out McWilliams Arroyo, and I believe it's going to happen in the first half of the fight. I think you'll see that happen in maybe the 5th round. I don't think it's going to make it past 6 rounds. I don't think that's going to happen. I'd say round number 5. Knockout victory for Julio Cesar Martinez today. In the main event of the DAZN card today is basically the reason that the fight is in Manchester, New Hampshire, and that is the WBO middleweight champion of the world, Demetrius Andrade. He's being challenged by Jason Quigley. Now, Demetrius Andrade, he's based, I believe, in Rhode Island. And I know he's from the Massachusetts or Rhode Island area, New England. And if you don't know, if you're not from the United States, if you've never been to the New England or the Northeast part of the United States, the New England region, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, it's very close knit. It's a very close knit community. All the way from Connecticut all the way up to Maine, they're all Patriots fans. That's Patriots territory. That's the only football team for Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Maine. The team that plays in Foxborough, the team that plays in Massachusetts, the team called the New England Patriots. That's their name, the New England Patriots. Just think about that, okay? They represent, like I just mentioned, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Maine. That's 6 states, okay? So Demetrius Andrade, while he's not necessarily fighting in Rhode Island, and he's not fighting in Boston, he is fighting in New Hampshire. And that's a very close-lit New England community. And, it's basically like he's fighting in his hometown, more or less. However, there will be a large contingency of Irish fans in attendance to support Jason Quigley. Jason Quigley is the road fighter. He is the visiting fighter. And I do see this fight being won by Demetrius Andrade on a points decision. That's the way I see this fight going. And I don't want to spend too much time on this fight or the breakdown or anything like that, because the reason The real reason that everybody's favorite boxing shaman, the real reason that yours truly, the dream, the real reason that I made this video is the fight tomorrow night. That's a fact. And that fight tomorrow night is between Terence Crawford, the WBO Welterweight Champion of the world, and the challenger, two-time former Welterweight Champion of the world, Shawn Porter. Look, this is going to be an incredible fight. Shawn Porter, former IBF Welterweight Champion, former WBC Welterweight Champion. Terence Crawford, current WBO Champion of the world. Terence Crawford, former Lightweight Champion of the world, 135 pounds. Terence Crawford, former undisputed 140-pound champion. You know, junior welterweight to some, super lightweight to others. The 140-pound championship. Terence Crawford had all the belts. All the super lightweight belts, all the junior welterweight belts. Whatever the fuck any sanctioning body wanted to call those belts, Terence Crawford had them. He had the Ring Magazine belt too. He had the Ring Magazine belt at 135 pounds. And in Terence Crawford's first fight, coming upstairs from 140 pounds to 147 pounds, leaving the junior welterweight or super lightweight division, coming upstairs to the full welterweight division in his very first fight, he beat the shit out of Jeff Horn and took the WBO title off of him. Took the WBO title, the WBO welterweight title, that Jeff Horn had taken from Manny Pacquiao. Yeah, everybody knows who Manny Pacquiao is. Fucking boxing legend. The only 8th division champion in the history of boxing. Jeff Horn took the WBO title off Manny Pacquiao. Terence Crawford, in his first fight at welterweight, took that title off of Jeff Horn. Now, was it a close fight between Jeff Horn and Pacquiao? Yeah. But Pacquiao wasn't done. He wasn't cooked. Pacquiao went on to beat undefeated Keith Thurman after that and become the WBA champion of the world. The full WBA champion of the world. Not just the regular, the WBA super champion, the full-fledged world champion at 147 pounds. And he did that after he lost to Jeff Horn. And Terence Crawford, he stopped Jeff Horn. He made short work of Jeff Horn. Terence Crawford is on an 8-fight knockout streak. He's 37-0, 28 knockouts. Okay, at lightweight, he beat Ricky Burns. And he went overseas to the United Kingdom to do so. Road fighter. Beat the shit out of Ricky Burns. Took the lightweight title. Beat the shit out of Yuriorkis Gamboa. Bounced that guy off the canvas. Cuban legend, and at the time, Yuriorkis Gamboa was undefeated. That's right, at that time he was undefeated. Not the version that exists today. Not the cooked version or the battle-worn version of Yuriorkis Gamboa. No. The prime Yuriorkis Gamboa. Terence Crawford bounced that guy off the canvas, embarrassed that guy, and stopped him. Terence Crawford stopped Diaz. Terence Crawford stopped Julius Ndongo. Terence Crawford beat Victor Postal. Very tricky Victor Postal, who a lot of people felt may have done enough to earn the victory in his recent fight with Jose Ramirez, who was a unified champion at the time. So Victor Postal is still a world-class and avoided fighter. Victor Postal is a deadly guy. Terence Crawford beat the shit out of that guy. Beat the piss out of him. Terence Crawford came very close to stopping Victor Postal. If you go back and watch the fight, he was tagging Victor Postal up late, and that was the point when Victor Postal started to foul. He started to hold excessively and punch low and punch behind the head. And I believe he was deducted a point for such. I believe he was. He was deducted. I believe he was deducted a point for some fouling that you could see was attributed from the beating he was taking from Terence Crawford. He couldn't do anything within the realm of the rule book, within the guidelines of fairness. So he was breaking the rules to survive in that fight. Now, he did survive the full length of the fight, but he got his ass kicked. And let me tell you something. Nobody kicks Victor Postal's ass like that. Nobody. Victor Postal still today is a threat to anyone that will step on the scales and meet him in the ring. That's a fact. Terence Crawford beat the shit out of that guy. Beat the shit out of that guy. Knocked out Julius Ndongo. Julius Ndongo, dangerous fighter, knockout fighter, who was a unified champion. Terence Crawford had 2 belts. Julius Ndongo had 2 belts. And what happened? Terence Crawford walked away with all 4. That's the way it went down. Terence Crawford knocked him out and stopped him. Terence Crawford, Kell Brook, who, Kell Brook, who had a great fight with Errol Spence Jr. after he had just gotten beat. Kell Brook had just gotten beat by Triple G. And Kell Brook had went up from 147 pounds all the way up to 160 to middleweight to, you know, to try to be great, to go for greatness. That's what, you know, Kell Brook was doing. And what happened was he got his eye socket broken by a much bigger, harder punching fighter in Triple G. In his very next fight, he came down. He fought Errol Spence Jr., the now unified champion Errol Spence Jr. And Kell Brook was doing well in that fight until he got stopped late. I believe it was the 10th or 11th round, where he got stopped because his eye socket or his other eye socket, you know, got broken by Kell Brook. Or whatever the case was, you know, he stopped him. Kell Brook was done. That same Kell Brook against Terence Crawford got embarrassed, got the shit beat out of him, got knocked out in the first quarter of the fight, got hit with something like 4 straight right hands before the referee jumped in, got, you know, literally knocked down with a jab hook, with what Terence Crawford likes to call his juke. That short juke, boom. Kell Brook danced across the ring, fell 10 to 12 feet across the ring, stumbling in the ropes, got tagged with 2 more punches, and the referee jumped in and said, okay, standing 8 count. The ropes held you up, you would have been knocked down. That's what's supposed to happen. If we're fighting, you know, 2 boxers are fighting, and the one guy hits the other guy, boom, and the guy, you know, stumbles into the ropes, and the ropes hold the guy up, whoa! That's, you know, that's supposed to be a knockdown. You know, that's why, you know, referee comes in and gives a standing 8 count in that scenario, because that's supposed to be a knockdown in that scenario, because the ropes held you up. That's what happened with Kell Brook. Look, Kell Brook got embarrassed by Terence Crawford. Amir Khan, who, look, let's be honest, in 2 fights with Marcos Maidana, Floyd Mayweather struggled in the first one, more than the second fight, but in the first fight he struggled, and both fights were pretty close. The first fight closer than the second fight, but both fights were fairly close. Amir Khan stopped Marcos Maidana. And look, styles make fights, yes, and triangle theories don't really work. But Marcos Maidana was a dangerous, durable, tough fighter. And Amir Khan, you know, he beat the shit out of that guy. Amir Khan beat the shit out of Marcos Maidana. And Terence Crawford, he stopped Amir Khan. He had him quit. Knocked him down in the first round. And beat the shit out of him until, you know, Amir Khan decided to, you know, grab his balls and fall like a fucking loser. Get that guy out of here. Look, the only thing I'd like to see with Kell Brook and Amir Khan at this point in both of their careers is those guys fight each other and then retire. Because those guys are both cooked. They're done. Now, at this point. But, you know, Terence Crawford also stopped Mean Machine. Kavaliauskas, dangerous fighter. Terence Crawford stopped that guy. Now, look, he's the WBO champion at 147 pounds. We all know that Terence Crawford at one time was the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. He's still top 3, top 2 or 3. Maybe 2, maybe he's number 2, maybe he's number 3. He's right there. He's not number 1. Canelo's number 1, let's be honest. Let's get all that out of the way. Everybody knows, you know, that, you know, everyone's favorite boxing shaman, yours truly, The Dream. Everyone knows that Canelo sits at the top of my pound-for-pound boxing list. As he sits atop of anyone's pound-for-pound boxing list who has a fucking brain. Ring Magazine number 1. You know, across the board. Canelo Alvarez is the top pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Period. But Terence Crawford is right there, and he's been right there for quite some time. Now, having said that, the resume of Shawn Porter at 147 pounds is better than Terence Crawford, and I'll explain to you why. Terence Crawford's accolades and accomplishments, most of them have come before 147 pounds. Since getting to 147 pounds and beating Jeff Horn, that's one feather in the cap. The victories over Khan and Brook, they're okay, but that's not that great. That's, you know, that's okay. That's good. That equates to beating a Danny Garcia, let's say. But, you know, that's not like being in the ring with, you know, an undefeated Keith Thurman at the time when Shawn Porter fought an undefeated Keith Thurman. And look, Shawn Porter has 3 losses in his career. Kell Brook, who was undefeated at the time, Keith Thurman, who was undefeated at the time, and Errol Spence Jr., who was still undefeated and who was undefeated at the time. And that was a unification fight that was a split decision. So those are three very difficult fights right there. Three very close fights. The fight with Kell Brook and Shawn Porter was a majority decision for Kell Brook. It was a very close fight. And at that time, after Kell Brook beat Shawn Porter, most people considered Kell Brook to be the best welterweight in the world. That's a fact. Most people, if you look it up, at that time, Kell Brook was considered to be the top dog. Now, for whatever reason, the Brook and Thurman fight didn't happen. And, Thurman, after Spence, beat what was left, after Brook fought Triple G and Spence beat what was left of Brook after that fight, Thurman was basically thought of as the premier, welterweight, because Keith Thurman had beat Danny Garcia and Shawn Porter in back-to-back very close, very tough fights. And, Keith Thurman was undefeated, and he was unified champion. I believe he was the WBA, and he was the WBC champion at the time. Unified champion, Keith Thurman. And, we all know what happened when Keith Thurman got in the ring with Manny Pacquiao. He was served his first loss. But at the time, when Shawn Porter fought Keith Thurman, it was a very close fight. It was a unanimous decision victory for Keith Thurman. But let me tell you something. I scored it 6 rounds apiece. Personally, I thought it was a draw. I thought it was a very close fight that could have went either way. Shawn Porter's victories at 147 pounds. He beat Adrian Broner when Adrian Broner was still, really a somebody. Yeah, today Adrian Broner's kind of cooked, no doubt about it. He's pretty much cooked. But when Shawn Porter beat him, he was still a somebody, and he beat him in a very good fight that was on NBC, on a very big stage, on a PBC show, a PBC show on NBC. This was something like 2016, I want to say. Again, great fight. Shawn Porter got the victory. Shawn Porter also beat Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie Malignaggi, who, a former world champion. Shawn Porter knocked out Andre Berto. Andre Berto was a, tough fighter. Shawn Porter beat the shit out of that guy. Shawn Porter beat the shit out of Devin Alexander. Former unified champion, Devin Alexander. Devin the Great is, Devin Alexander the Great. At one time, he was a great fighter. He really was. And he still has, the capabilities and the abilities to give anyone a tough night, any night of the week. Devin Alexander is still a very tough fighter to this day. To this day! Still a very tough fighter. But at the end of the day, this Shawn Porter and Terence Crawford showdown tomorrow night, everybody's favorite boxing shaman, yours truly, I'm going to give you the pick, and I'm going to give it to you right now. Very difficult for me to choose this one. 2 fighters I like very much, and going into this fight, I honestly think this is going to be the toughest test of Terence Crawford's career. And I actually believe that this fight is going to go the distance. I don't think Terence Crawford is going to stop Shawn Porter. I don't think it's going to go down that way. And look, I'm going to be honest. Last weekend was upset weekend. This weekend has a possibility to be upset weekend. And I'm going to tell you right now, this could be a banana skin for Terence Crawford. And as much as he is my favorite boxer in the world today, a small part of me feels like he's looking past Shawn Porter. He was at the WBC convention, even though he's the WBO champion, and he petitioned the WBC, asked to be the mandatory challenger for Errol Spence Jr. Now, if you got a fight coming up with Shawn Porter, you better fucking focus on Shawn Porter all the way. Because Shawn Porter is the Evander Holyfield of the welterweight division. Evander Holyfield, no matter how old he was, no matter how big his opponent was, it was never going to be an easy night out for Evander Holyfield's opponent. And Evander Holyfield could beat anybody any given day. Shawn Porter is no different. Shawn Porter is a rough and tumble guy. He has what it takes to land the right hand on Terence Crawford, and I think he will. And I can tell you this, I think Terence Crawford's going to get knocked down in this fight. And I haven't seen the weigh-in yet. And that's when I can give you my real assessment. And, especially when these guys put their gloves on and they get their ring walks. But as much as I don't want to say it on camera, I'm picking Shawn Porter to win this fight by decision. Yes, I am. I'm picking Shawn Porter to win this fight by points decision. Look, I want to see Terence Crawford win. I want to see that big knockout. I'm picking Shawn Porter to win this fight by points decision. Shawn Porter said he is going to bring the spirit of the late, great, marvelous Marvin Hagler. He said he's going to bring that spirit. Now, if you're going to summon marvelous Marvin Hagler, you're not going to summon marvelous Marvin Hagler to lose. And everything I've seen thus far in the interviews, this entire week leading up to the fight, Shawn Porter has aced all the interviews. Now, look, interviews are interviews, but confidence is key. Shawn Porter looks confident. Shawn Porter looks quietly confident. And a quietly confident man is a very dangerous man. A very dangerous man. And Terence Crawford always has that quiet confidence, yes. But Shawn Porter is not looking past Terence Crawford. He's not. And Shawn Porter knows. He knows that if he beats Terence Crawford, his legacy is fully secured. And he will be considered maybe the greatest welterweight of this division. A 3-time welterweight champion of this era, a 3-time welterweight champion, Shawn Porter. If he beats Terence Crawford, believe me, Shawn Porter knows this. And Shawn Porter's father knows this. And Kenny Porter has been in Shawn Porter's corner his entire career and his entire life. And they have a very close relationship. And we all know how much Mark Quigley, my good friend Mark Quigley, we all know how much he loves family in boxing and how he always does these, these incredible eloquent pieces, of edited footage on ESPN, these incredible, interviews and these montage and these incredible, documentary-like pieces he always does about family in boxing and fathers training sons. And Kenny Porter and Shawn Porter, they have that relationship. And as much as I love Terence Crawford, I'm picking Shawn Porter to win this fight. That's right. So Dreamers in Dreamland, remember, I am your favorite boxing shaman. Yours truly, The Dream. Until we meet again, my friends, I love each and every one of you, but not near equally. That's just the way it works. Some of you I know too damn well to love you that fucking much. Peace!